Alright, this is going to be video 3 of your isometric drawings, and what we're going to cover in video 3 is step 2 of the invisible box. The first thing that we're going to do is identify what step number 2 is. So with your pen, we're going to write this down. Step 2. We're going to identify the outside faces with object lines. Identify the outside faces with object lines. And object lines I'm going to write in a different color. And these are one of our line types that we're going to become very familiar with in class. Alright, and our object lines are going to be heavy, thick, solid lines. So I'm just going to write thick, solid lines. Okay, and we've seen object lines before. Again, I'm going to reference our ortho notes and bring those in. So the object lines are the black lines that I went over and traced the outside of my object with. All right, and just like ortho drawings, your object lines are going to help us clearly identify all of the faces and edges of your part. Okay. So the outside faces, basically what that means is any face that touches the outside of your cube. All right, or your invisible box, because I guess this technically isn't a cube. All right, so what we need to go ahead and do is grab our straight edge, and if you're picturing a wedge or a doorstop, I don't have one handy right now, but if I did, I would show it to you. We all know that the height of my wedge is going to be 2, so I'm going to make that line, using my straight edge, a very thick, heavy, dark line. All right, now I made my construction lines maybe a little bit too dark, so if I erase them a little bit more, I tried to do them a little bit darker so you all could see on my video, but you should be able to tell a very, very noticeable difference between your object line and your construction line. And if you can't, like I couldn't, your construction lines are too dark. All right, so I'm just erasing them very slightly. Now I am going to go over this in pen. All right, so I guess long term it doesn't really matter. Okay, now the next thing that we know is that the overall width of my wedge is 5 inches. So my overall width is going to go the entire width of that object. All right, so I'm going to make an object line there and darken that up. Okay. I also know that my overall depth is going to be 2. So I'm going to make 2 different object lines for my overall depth. So there's my first depth. And again, we're just doing lines that touch the outside faces. So what lines touch the outside of our box? And I know that that is our depth dimension. I went a little bit over. All right. And that is also an outside face. Now, in order to complete my wedge, my lines that I need to complete it are actually going to be inside faces. So I'm not going to complete those in step number 2. This is the conclusion of step number 2. So now that we've identified all of our outside faces with object lines, I'm going to go over them with my pen so that we can see them a little bit better. So again, please use a straight edge while you're doing this to keep your drawings nice, neat, and clean. This will be the expectation for your assignment when we get there, so that's why I'm having you practice in our notes. That is all for step number 2. The next video, video 4, is going to preview what step number 3 in creating your invisible boxes.